All right, so going to attempt installing the PCA screen door. What we are running into, get this spun around here, is more or less the door handle is protruding past the jamb. So we're gonna have to add this little 1-inch piece of trim here on the parameter. That way the door will be offset enough so we can get clearance for this bulging handle here. All right, so first step is to measure the inside trim here. So should be going from this threshold to the top of the opening. We actually built this out an extra inch, as you can see, so I goofed up and measured off of the old threshold height, but since I had to build it out, I should have measured from here. So we're actually going to be coming up short. I've already cut and lined it up. So we're about to install those. Got the left and right legs cut up. The Z-bars do have a notch, so they are unidirectional. You can only install them one way. The felt groove goes to the inside. So we're just going to take this left side here and stage it. Okay, so that's how it's going to look, so that felt acts as a slam strip for the door when you are closing it. Gives it a nice tight seal there. So we're going to get these installed, measure out the header, so in between this Z-bar to the other Z-bar, get that cut and installed as well. We'll check back once we've got that all done. All right, so hit a bit of a snag here. Apparently the French door instructions have not been updated. Just spoke with PCA and they informed me that their single door instructions have been updated to specify to install the header first. What we are running into, per the instructions on the French door, you can see this little notch here. That does not leave enough clearance for the header to go up here and mount inside. So essentially you're going to want to mount the header first, then you run your Z-bar legs up to butt against the header. Right now we can't get the header in there to sit flat, so we're going to pull these legs off, mount the header, push the legs up to the header, and mount the legs, and we'll check back in a bit. All right, so we pulled the Z-bar legs, got the header installed, and then put the Z-bar legs back in. Ran into a little bit of an issue here. The Z-bar kind of wants to roll ever so slightly, but we are calling that good. It's nearly flush. It's on the inactive side of the door. Like I mentioned, I measured off the original threshold, and once we built it out, I should have measured from this threshold, so we are coming up short on this. But again, from a distance, doesn't really look too bad. So we're gonna call that good. May address it at a later time if the homeowner wants it addressed. All right, so the next step is to cut this side expander with piano hinge. I've only got one fastener in it right now. But more or less the directions say that is your opening size. So when you measure from the header down to the threshold, it's going to be that minus 2 1/4, because that's going to leave room for your adjustable bug sweep. Okay, so firing this up, just to point out, this is the hinge rail guide. Okay, so more or less you can see this little ridge here. Okay, so more or less that is a guide to butt your hinge up against. You can see we've got it going here. Okay, and so coming down here, I'm just going to make sure I'm butted up against that ridge all the way down. Okay, so just a quick update here. We got the side expander installed. Just a reminder, you want to have the hinge down 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch. Forgot to do that, so I trimmed off the top in order to get that reveal so it didn't change the bottom. they say to do 3 fasteners at the top and then every other hole after that, so we did achieve that. We are on to the next step, which is getting the doors installed in the expander. So just preliminary staging here. We need to get both doors in since this is a French door and we've got the astragal to deal with. Okay, so we got these side expanders in. Got the doors slid into the U-channel, which is this side expander with the hinge on it. You can see here. Okay, got the doors slid in there. So instructions state to slide the doors in, maintain a 3/16 reveal all the way around. Okay, try to get your doors evenly pulled out from the expander. So you can see I got 3, almost 4 lines. We hit a 4th line up top here. Let's see how we ended up over here. We're only at the 2 line mark, so we're a little bit of a discrepancy there, but the astragal has some adjustability in it, so we should be able to make up that little bit of discrepancy, that little bit of difference. But we got our crossbars, our decorative portion, nice and lined up here, so everything's looking good and going smooth so far. Got our 4 fasteners installed. I would recommend, if you have fasteners in your Z-bar, try to line those up with that one a little bit, but you can see that's what we're trying to do. And for the 4th one, I just try to get it center of the ticket there, so we'll do the same thing over here. All right, so we got the 2 doors installed. I just put the astragal on. Gonna talk about that for just a moment. Try to get this staged as good as I can, but more or less we got the hinges on, slid the doors in, got that reveal nice all the way around, nice in the center. So fasten the doors in place. Then we moved on to the astragal. Instructions specified to leave 1 1/4 inch gap between the doors. Okay, so we got that on, essentially bottomed out the astragal on the door for our situation. It may not be the case for you. Okay, before you put the astragal on, sorry, I wish I didn't have it installed, but you'll see this flush bolt here. Well, when that comes to you from the box, that flush bolt's recessed a good way so that you can trim this to size. Okay, once you trim it to size, you need to unscrew this flush bolt so that it sits flush with the astragal. Once you do that, there's a nut on here that you need to thread down, that way it won't back out on you. So what's going to happen is when I flip the flush bolt lever here, that flush bolt is going to pop out. So now what we're going to move on to, we're going to put a little nail polish on the tip of the flush bolt, put the door in place, flip the lever, boom, that's going to mark where I need to drill at. Okay, so now I'm going to drill, and that should be that for this section, attaching the astragal. All right, so we got the astragal installed here. And basically what that required was getting the bolts threaded in per the instructions, get it flush with the top here, in the closed position. So you can see the flush bolt's not protruding. Versus boom, when I flip the lever here, now it's protruding. So we just took some nail polish and closed the door, flipped the lever. That made our mark where we needed to drill. So it recommends a 7/32 drill bit to do that. We opted not to drill that hole that is marked there, mainly because we don't have a 7/32 masonry bit. It's either smaller or larger, and we cut the astragal so it's already kind of catching on the threshold here. So that's keeping the bottom lock between these two being here. It's nice and secure. So we're going to call that good. So now we're measuring for the bug sweeps, which it is calling to measure from the hinge to the astragal minus a 16th. So on this side, we're going to go to this side of the astragal minus a 16th. So we're going to get those cut and try to get them installed, and we will check back. All right, so this is where we're going to call it on the job. So we got the handle installed. Nice smooth operation. Homeowner opted for no closure tube pump. We did mount a little piece of felt here so that the handle wouldn't hit. But that is all she wrote. So we did end up going back and drilling out. For the bottom astragal here, we just noticed a little bit of movement on the door when we were slamming it like that. So we did go back and drill that out downstairs. Handle installation was pretty straightforward. There is a little template that's used here that lined up perfectly with what we were trying to do. Yeah, everything's pretty smooth here. Just barely made it on my latch there. Any lower would have been a struggle, so I cut it close on that. But this is my first install, so overall pretty happy with it. The only issue I ran into really, besides the threshold issue that I mentioned earlier, so that's going to leave the Z-bar short, that made the expander short, which brought the bug sweep up high. Outside of that, which, you know, I just associate with being a beginner, was the width of the bug sweep. So the instructions reference the hinge Z-bar. I read that as from the hinge, so I did it from the hinge. I should have done it from the Z-bar minus a 16th. So this gap's too big, so going to have a longer bug sweep mailed out to replace this one. So this one's not fastened in place right now. And then because of the threshold getting about an inch bigger, you can see we're not getting a seal with the felt there. So PCA is going to be sending us a surface mount bug sweep as opposed to this adjustable. We're going to screw it to the back of this door, and that will give us just a vinyl sweep on the bottom as opposed to the wool pile. So that wraps it up